Hey everybody, it's GalModX and welcome back to another Magic Arena Cube Draft. We've got a very solid pack as always here, some really great options to choose from. So up at the top in red we have Phoenix of Ash and Experimental Frenzy, great options for red-based aggressive decks. Mono red is definitely a strategy you can pull off in this cube, and red black, red white, both very aggressive, very powerful things you can do. Red green as well. But yeah, both of these cards very solid for those decks. Experimental Frenzy being a huge draw engine in the late game. Phoenix of Ash just being a nice evasive threat, comes out very quickly with haste as well, and has the ability to come back over and over throughout the game with the escape ability. Captivating Crew I'm a little less interested in, but in the right situations it can be very solid, stealing their best blocker and hitting them with it alongside the rest of your attacking field. We also have Teferi, which is a solid planeswalker for a controlling deck. If you can defend this Teferi, it can really help you control the game by drawing you extra cards every turn, letting you hit what you need, as well as phasing things out when you're out of removal. Oracle of Moldai is really solid, allowing you to play extra lands each turn, as well as draw lands off the top of your library, get them out of the way. Field of the Dead is great. There is definitely a 5-color strategy in this cube, and it is fantastic with Field of the Dead. And Ashiok is great for the mill decks, which are definitely available in this cube. So I'm going to pick one, pack one, that Field of the Dead there, because I do think that the heavily multicolored strategies are quite solid if you get the cards to go around with them. And Field of the Dead and Golos are probably the two biggest cards for those 5-color strategies. So what do we have here? We have Valki, God of Lies, which is also Tibalt, Cosmic Impostor. For a Field of the Dead deck, it's much more likely we'll want to cast this as a Tibalt than a Valki. So 7 mana for a 5 loyalty Planeswalker, exile artifacts or creatures as a -3, +2 to exile the top card of each player's library, and the biggest part of this, you can cast everything you've exiled with Tibalt. So really insane game-ending late-game card, definitely good in ramp sort of strategies, and that is exactly where Field of the Dead is going to shine, so I think that Tibalt is a pretty solid pick here. There's also the dual lands and the 3-colored land here, though, which are definitely high picks for decks that are trying to be 5-color, and very high picks for Field of the Dead decks. That being said, Tibalt is a very, very brutal card, and the better your opponent's cards are, the better this card is, and obviously in Cube, the general quality of the cards is very high, so you are likely to be exiling some very good stuff off of Tibalt to go ahead and cast later in the game. What do we have now? So we have Turntimber Symbiosis. This is a solid card in a Field of the Dead deck because of the fact that whenever we play this as a land, it's a land with a different name. Field of the Dead wants us to have 7 lands with different names to create 2/2 zombies. So playing this as a land is good in that kind of deck, and the backside of this card gives us another card to ramp into the late game, so I think Turntimber Symbiosis is solid here. A lot of other cards here just aren't for our sort of strategy that we're trying to go for, but I think the Triumph would be the closest. If this were a Triumph with green in it, I think I would take it first here, because green is likely the most important color for most of these multicolor decks. But yeah, no green there, so I'll just take a Serpentine Wood over it. Definitely other powerful cards in the pack for different strategies. But Field of the Dead makes me want to do everything I can, at least in these first several picks, to end up in a rampy strategy. If it doesn't pan out by about the middle of this pack, we can definitely start swapping, but for now, I'll do my best. Another one of these flip cards that's good with Field of the Dead because, again, gives you more lands with different names and gives you a card you can cast in the late game if you already have all the lands you need. Seems solid. Hedron Archive is interesting here. It is an artifact-based ramp spell, so not ideal with Field of the Dead. We'd prefer ramp spells that put lands onto the field so that we can get more land types for Field of the Dead, get more mana fixing that way, so it is a colorless ramp spell as well. But this would be good to help cast Tibalt in just like a 2 or 3 color deck if we end up in just like Rakdos or Grixis or something. I think it's just going to be Balaged Recovery for me, though. Definitely not taking the Old Grove Troll. That is just a very, very difficult mana cost for a deck that is more than 2 colors maximum. So now we have Hagra Mauling and Hagra Brood Pit, another card that combos well with Field of the Dead, as well as giving us a removal spell, which is really important to have the controlling kind of spells to deal with what your opponent's doing. But there's also Woodland Cemetery and Rootbound Crag, which are also important, being the dual lands that we need for playing a heavily multicolored deck. With Valky here, we want to cast this as Tybalt, so we're pretty much confirmed to be Jund at the very least, so either of these dual lands will be solid, because we're going to be playing green, black, and red in order to cast Tybalt. So I think Rootbound Crag actually would be probably the best out of these two duels, because green-red tends to be more of the rampy, landfall-y kind of deck than green-black would be, so I'm going to take Rootbound Crag here, actually, over the Hagra Mauling. We do have to take these lands pretty highly, and I have not been doing my due diligence thus far. I have been passing a lot of triomes and two-color lands and stuff. Now we have Kiora, which is good in a ramp-based deck with a lot of creatures. Right now we don't have a lot of creatures. We'll definitely need to scoop some up to work with her, but that is an option here. If we don't take that, we can take a Magma Quake, which is good against the aggressive decks for us. If our opponent has a lot of flyers out, it's going to be bad, but if we're against an aggressive deck with a bunch of creatures on the ground, this can definitely just wipe the board, try to stabilize us, give us more time to hit our higher mana cost cards. That does seem solid if we end up in primarily like green-red ramping up here. Or we could just take a Pathway, these are always good, or the Temple. Probably between the Pathway or the Magma Quake for me here. I'm going to go with the Magma Quake. We don't actually need to be 5 colors for Field of the Dead, we just need a lot of lands with different names, and we have a good start to that. We have Field, Rootbound Crag, Turntimber Serpentine Wood, and Balaged Sanctuary. So we already have quite a few lands with different names towards that. So Helm of the Host is just always too slow for me. I've never gotten this card to actually go off and do anything, unfortunately, so I think it's just not a card I ever am looking to take at this point. There's also a lot of main deckable artifact enchantment hate like Reclamation Sage that can just deal with it before it goes off. I'm interested in mostly Reclamation Sage or Fight with Fire here. Cosmos Elixir can be good if you really stabilize, but mainly good in like the life gain decks that can consistently give themselves more life. I think I'm interested in a Fight with Fire here. This gives us a removal spell in the early game, deal with whatever aggressive creatures they're playing, and in the late game after we've ramped up a bunch, we can all of a sudden do 10 damage divided wherever we choose, which can be a one-sided board wipe. It can just deal 10 to our opponent's face to finish them off. A lot of stuff that card can do. And here I like Explore a lot in the landfall-y decks, but there are the dual lands as well if we want to be pushing into more colors. Without like a guaranteed Golos here, I don't think it's something I'm looking into. If these were red-black or red-green duels, anything in Jund, I would be interested in scooping them up because those are all colors I'm pretty much guaranteed to be trying to hit here. Wow, the powerful mono-red cards did wheel here. Experimental Frenzy and Phoenix of Ash, so maybe mono-red is open. Red in general definitely open. That being said, our cards here do not combo well with mono-red, so if we move into mono-red, these are like the first cards we're taking for that strategy. We're not playing a single one of these other cards, except maybe Fight with Fire just for removal. Yeah, that doesn't seem like a thing we're doing, and we could actually play Akoum Warrior in this deck. Akoum Teeth is another land for Field of the Dead, and we can just cast the Warrior itself late game if we draw it late game. Eldest Reborn's a pretty good card, but we are going to be taking these non-basics highly when they are in the colors we're trying to be, or at least trying to splash into, so I am going to scoop up a Dragon Skull Summit here. Young Pyromancer still in here again for that red kind of deck. Heroic Intervention's never a card I'm a huge fan of, and I don't think it's for our sort of strategy, because potentially this like counters a Wrath effect is what it does, and we're just not going to have that much stuff on the field at any point. Nothing here really feels like it's for us, but I guess I'll pick this Young Pyromancer since we do see all of these mono-red sort of cards going really late, and Young Pyro we could also perhaps use in this ramp deck. We have a good amount of instants and sorceries already. We've got 4 sorceries in an instant, so we have 5 that combo with it. Here we take Predation for the Caverns to go with Field of the Dead, or Soulscar Mage to leave ourselves open for going mono-red, and I'm going to take Soulscar Mage just in case because of how late we saw Phoenix of Ash and Experimental Frenzy there. And Sarkhan's Unsealing would be the most fun card that we could potentially play here, but Bone Splitter we could end up with in mono red. But I will take Sarkhan's Unsealing. In a rampy deck with a lot of big creatures, this can make some explosive plays, dealing 4 to any target whenever you cast a big creature. And if you cast a massive creature, then you do 4 to everything. That being said, we are picking up some cards that aren't likely to get played because we are pretty late in the pack here. But it's possible. So what do we have here? We have Kaya, which is a very powerful card. At the worst, Kaya exiles 1 non-land permanent. At base, I can't speak today, I apologize. At best, you get to keep putting ghost form counters onto your cards with like good enter the battlefield effects to keep blocking with them, recasting them, getting more blockers out of them. Pretty insane with the ghost form counters and the ability to exile stuff. We do have a green-black duel, which we want to take highly with Field of the Dead, and to make our mana base just really good for casting Tybalt. We also have Bloodsheep's Thirst, which is a nice early game removal spell to keep us alive. I think probably Overgrown Tomb, Bloodsheep's Thirst, Kaya are the cards I'm most interested in here. I think I'm just going to go with Overgrown Tomb here. Try to keep myself held back a little bit in this draft, a little restrained to go for just a consistent good strategy here. You can't show me the Ulamog after I say that because I'm just going to slam an Ulamog. I mean, we're not going to ramp that hard, are we? No, we don't have a lot of ramp here. We're mainly just Jund control, really. Trying to use good removal spells like Fight with Fire, Wrath Effect like Magma Quake to stay in the game. Last long enough to cast our big spells. Ulamog is unfortunately not going to be great here. I'm thinking Vivian would be pretty solid. Starts with 5 loyalty, -3 to destroy an artifact, enchantment, or flying creature, +1 to grab a creature or land from your top several. Pretty solid card there. We could take Castle just because it's another non-basic with a different name, but we've got a lot of those already, and I'm less interested in Castle because it is our off color. Black is our splash for sure. Anything else out of here would just be like Mouth Defeat or Back for More. Neither of those I'm that excited for in this deck. I think Vivian seems solid here. Now, what do we have? Valakut Awakening, another one of these flip cards that's both a land with a different name and a spell if we want to cast a spell instead. Eliminate for some early game removal. Blooming Marsh for another dual land in our colors. Deemworthy can maybe like kill something and draw a card, but this just seems like a lot of mana for what it does at either effect. Bedevil is 3 mana to destroy an artifact, creature, or planeswalker, but it does require double black. Double black's a bit of a hard sell for us here. As you can see from the colors of our stuff, we're mainly in just red-green. Guess I could scoop up Valakut Awakening here and just have like a million comes into play tapped lands, but I guess Blooming Marsh seems a little better than that. Get as many duels as we can. Once Upon a Time is an awesome card in general, so I'm pretty happy to pick that up. It goes into like literally any deck and never gets cut because you just cast it for free and grab the best land or creature from your top 5, so it's kind of like a miniature free mulligan in a way. Just grabbing where the best card would be for you in the early game. In the late game, you don't get to cast it for free anymore, but if you've drawn it in the late game, that likely means you have enough mana to cast it anyway. Once Upon a Time is just a pretty good card, and all of these duels, unfortunately, are not in our 3 colors. They're all splashing something a little outside of our colors. But maybe pick them up in case of a Golos. But Golos is the kind of card, everybody loves Golos, so Golos does get drafted just the second it's seen almost every time. Erebos' Intervention is an option out of that pack as well, because it's a removal spell that can gain us some life. So that can keep us in the game in that way. Kind of like Shock here, just a pretty cheap little removal spell. Gruul is the core of our deck, so red and green cards is what we're looking at the most. Don't love Shadow Spear here. We have a pretty low creature count. We only have 4 creatures, so equipment are not likely to be good. I think Shock here. Crawling Barrens, while it does have a powerful effect for a land to have in the late game, giving you something to do with all your mana if you flood out, it is a colorless land, and we are 3 colors at minimum here, so it is a bit of a harder sell because sometimes we won't draw the right colors because we have Crawling Barrens in our deck. Escape to the Wilds is a pretty powerful card, and it helps you ramp a bit. Exile the top 5 cards of your library. You can play the exiled cards until the end of your next turn, and you can play an additional land this turn. So it helps you dump out any lands you hit with it, and it's essentially a draw 5 for 5, which is always good. I think that card is powerful enough here to take over the Kazandu Mammoth, but Kazandu Mammoth would be really good here as well. It gives us a creature on turn 3 or another land with a different name for Field of the Dead. But it's going to be Escape to the Wilds for me here. Well, now we have a bit of something to ramp into, or we have a Lightning Strike. So Lightning Strike for more early game removal, or get our first big creature to ramp into the Hornet Queen. I think it's going to be the Hornet Queen for me here. This card really turns games around. If you've seen my mono black-ish deck, you saw that I got absolutely hosed by a Hornet Queen. It just comes out all of a sudden. It's incredibly hard for your opponent to attack into this, and it's really hard to block as well. So really big card there. Although Immortal Sun is quite solid as well. Start drawing 2 cards a turn, making your spells cheaper, all your creatures bigger, shutting off any planeswalkers. But I'm just going to scoop up that Hornet Queen. I don't think that I'm playing any of these cards. Yeah, we're definitely not an equipment deck. We're not a fast enough deck for Beaumont Courier. Maybe we're a slow enough deck for Cruel Reality, but card is not that great. Command the Dreadhorde to bring everything back from the grave. Requires a lot of life to do that. I don't think we're going to have disposable life in the late game, so that doesn't seem great for me here. I do kind of like Direfleet Daredevil. It gives us a 2-power first striking blocker in the early game, and in the late game we get to cast this and something from their grave, which is good. Although Magma Jet would be solid here too, killing something and scrying a couple cards. Definitely Mouth to Feed here. Just a 3-mana 3/3 blocker, and then potentially casting Feed to draw a card or 2 later. Well, Deem Worthy it is. I don't know how I feel about this card, but we'll see. I will take it over and Eliminate, because I don't think Eliminate's that great either, but I do think it's probably better than Deem Worthy, but it is our off color. Yeah, now we'll just start taking off color duels, I guess, just in case. If they're still around here. Take a Rashmi here. We just did get a blue duel if we're trying to splash a Rashmi. Could cast Insult to Injury just for injury, but that doesn't seem awesome. We'll probably get cut. Alright, what do we have now? Some pretty good options. I don't think we're a Grook's Uprising deck, unfortunately. We just do not have a lot of creatures at all. That being said, I think we're going to take Glorybringer. Glorybringer is just such a sick card. It goes into like any red deck. Like, it goes into mono red, it goes into hyper aggro red decks, it goes into slow red decks. Throw this in any deck, and it's just a great card. Attacks as a 4/4 flying haste. When it attacks, if you exert it, you get to deal 4 to one of their creatures, which often kills something. I'm going to take Glorybringer here, but I think the next best card for us is actually Karn. Because Karn is just a great draw engine in any deck, being able to +1, look at the top 2, your opponent puts 1 into your hand, 1 into exile, and then -1 you get to exile one of those. It's like every turn you're drawing the worst card out of your top 2, and Karn starts with 5 loyalty, so if you +1 once, then Karn's at 6 loyalty. Like, it is really easy to see Karn's -2 effect and just assume, like, oh, this is just an artifact deck card, but the first 2 abilities are good enough for Karn to just go into literally any deck in the cube. So if you're in pack 1, I would pick Karn pretty highly because of the fact that whatever colors you end up in, you can always just toss a Karn in there, really, unless you're very aggressive, I would say. If you're mid-range, Karn's pretty great. Pretty likely to take Dragon Master Outcast here. We're kind of doing the land ramp thing with Explore and Escape to the Wilds, although not a ton of ramp, but we are a late game deck as well, so Dragon Master's ability is the kind of thing we're trying to hit. We don't have enough creatures that I'm that interested in Rishkar's expertise. I'd love to wheel Elvish Rejuvenator, as unlikely as that is. I think the best wheel that we might actually get would be Sheltered Thicket, although Elvish Rejuvenator or Scorching Dragonfire would be solid wheels as well, if we can scoop those up. We'll see. Not super likely. We do have Rada here. Great for the land ramp sort of deck. Now we get to start playing lands from the top of our library. Yeah, so helps us get out of Mana Flood by drawing us a card every time there's land on top of our deck. Chandra's good in a mid-range sort of deck as well. 3 to a creature when she comes in. You start drawing cards off of her afterwards. This was a card that I played back in Standard, when Call Time was in Standard, in Temur Energy. She was absolutely absurd. Ovenwald Hydra's a good game-ending kind of land ramp card. Definitely some good cards we could wheel here, but these are the best cards. They're not that likely to wheel, but maybe we get, like, I don't know. Everything else in there is actually not that good for us, so never mind. Ooh, I do love me a Dryad Greenseeker. Dryad of the Elysian Grove is good too. Don't give me both Dryads. These are both great cards. There's also more early game removal spells. Crush the Weak as well might be important to stave off the aggressive decks. The one thing I don't like about Crush the Weak and Magma Quake type effects in Cube is that Cube decks can be so different. Like, Crush the Weak is almost always good in, like, Call Time Draft, but in Cube, you are going to just run up against dedicated control decks sometimes that your cards like Magma Quake and Crush the Weak do absolutely nothing to, unfortunately. I'm going to take the Dryad of the Elysian Grove here, I think. Get another land ramper. Let's see what we have now. A Demon Bolt for another cheap removal spell, a Blood Crypt for another duel. We do not actually have that many just like lands to go with Field of the Dead. We have a lot of these flip lands, so I am probably wanting to take these pretty highly. I think Vraska is the best splash card for our deck, definitely better than Judith. Judith for a deck with a lot of creatures. Vraska is a good controlling card. It destroys something, can start sacrificing lands in the late game to gain life draw cards. I'm actually going to take Vraska here. She does seem pretty good for us. Shatter Skull Smashing. Another flip land. Sweltering Suns gives us another early game Wrath effect, which seems very solid for our deck. Against the right strategy, of course, but I do want to have as much defense against those decks as possible. We do have Canyon Slough. Sweltering Suns is just not going to come back, and I feel like I've been seeing a lot of dual lands here, so hopefully we can get 1 or 2 of those to come back, or at least like a Triome that has 2 of our colors. What do we have now? Probably Seraph, the Realm Eater. Maybe Finale of Devastation. We're not a Kazul's Fury or Goblin Ruin Blaster deck, although I guess we can cast, or we can run Kazul's Cliffs to play as a land. Definitely not a Field of the Dead deck. Yeah, I mean, Seraph, if we can, like, do a one-sided board wipe with Seraph out, that'll be hilarious. Although I suppose it's not very likely. Just take a Wilt for the sideboard. I'm not going to play any of these black cards. And we are, of course, in best of 1 games, so the sideboard doesn't matter too much, but we'll see. I am going to start, now that we're at pick 9 here, just scooping up the last bit of dual lands I can. Grab a red-black land here. And we're definitely not a Rampaging Ferocidon deck. Are we a God of Death deck? Not really, that's our splash color. We're not a Rishkar's Expertise deck, though, either. We don't have a lot of creatures to draw off of that. I don't think we're playing any of these cards. I guess Ferocidon might be the most likely. It's not very. Ooh, we're actually happy to get Ulvenwald Hydra here. Give us another big late game-ending card. We don't have a lot of those that we're actually excited about. We just have Glorybringer and Hornet Queen. Other than that, we're just trying to outvalue people and play cards like a Coom Warrior. We did wheel to Crush the Weak, so I guess we could try that. Got a lot against the really aggressive decks, so I think I'm taking Masked Vandal over Demon Bolt here to get another blocker and have something against artifacts, enchantments, potentially. Wow, I could actually play that Kazul's Fury. Definitely going to be doing some deck building here, because we really need to consider how many lands we actually want versus how many fake lands we have, those spell lands. Because we have a lot of those. Turn off those parallax styles. Okay, so we have 48 cards, not counting the spell lands as lands here. Oh, that's not a land on the back half. These are all lands, right? Yeah, those are all lands on the back half. Okay, so we have 4 spell lands and 17 lands right now, but we're going to be a slow deck, so that puts us at potentially 21 lands, and any time that we don't need the lands, we just cast those as spells. I mean, that seems fine to me. Maybe we cut like 1 land here. So, I'm not going to play the Cruel Reality. Just very slow, I think. I'm not going to play Insult to Injury either, because we're not really doing anything with Insult. We're just using it for injuries removal, so we'll get rid of that. Soulscar Mage is not for this deck. I mean, it is cute with all of the stuff that damages all creatures, but that's like a one-time trick. Young Pyromancer. How many instants and sorceries did we end up with? 5 instants, 9 sorceries? I should probably split my cards like this here, so I can see more clearly. Oh yeah, we're going to be a very creature-low deck here. So I guess Young Pyro does potentially do stuff, but I do have Crush the Weak, Sweltering Suns, Magma Quake. We've got 3 kind of red wrath effects that are going to kill our own little creatures, like our little 1/1s we could get off Pyromancer. I'm thinking like Pyromancer, Ferocidon are really just not comboing with what we got going on here. Cut those, and then we cut some non-creatures now. We can run a very low creature count here, I think, because we have multiple wrath effects and some removal, trying to close out that early game. Or lock down the early game, I should say. Deemworthy seems expensive for what it's doing. I think I'll get rid of Deemworthy. Probably get rid of the Mouth to Feed. Then I might even get rid of a Vivian. She does dig for Field of the Dead, which is good. Just keeps looking at the top 4, just trying to find our Field of the Dead, because she can grab lands. Yeah, the fact that she grabs lands means she's actually still probably solid here. The biggest reason I was thinking about cutting her is we don't have like that many... We don't have like a ton of creatures here, so we'll miss off of the creature part of this sometimes, but it's okay if we're still just hitting lands in this deck. Yeah, we only have 1 cut to go. I could just cut a land here. And then we have 16 lands plus 4 spell lands. So that's 20 if we just always play these as comes into play tapped lands. Yeah. Seems fine to me. We have 3 black sources: Dragon Skull, Blooming Marsh, Overgrown Tomb, Savai Triome, that's 4 of them. Maybe cut a swamp here. I guess we have Vraska, Valki, and Seraph now. No, I don't think we cut a swamp here. Maybe we cut a mountain. We have triple green costs on like Hornet Queen. We do have a double red cost on Magma Quake and Sweltering Suns. Yeah, our mana is pretty difficult here. 2 red sources there, 2 green sources there. So we have pretty much equal red and green represented among our cards. Green is mildly more important for like Explore and the Dryad, but red has more double costs: Magma Quake, Sweltering Suns, and Glorybringer. All of the green double costs are late game. Starting at 5 mana, we have Vivian requiring 2 green. And then from that point on, we just need 1,000,000 green mana: Hornet Queen, Ulvenwald Hydra, Turn Timber Symbiosis. Yeah, we need the red more in the early game, because we need to be able to just cast Sweltering Suns turn 3 or turn 4 against the aggressive decks. Let's count up our sources. This is red-black, so red sources we have 1, 2, 3, 8 red sources. Green sources we have 1, 2, 3, 8. They would be exactly equivalent. I was hoping it was going to be one less of one, so that I could just cut one of whichever had slightly more. I really don't want to cut a swamp here, because we don't actually have anything that searches our deck for a specific color. All of our ramp is just letting us play lands we already have in land, like Escape to the Wilds and Explore, or we already have in hand. Not in land. Rada as well, just plays lands off the top, doesn't search for a specific color. With no mana searching, like no mana fixing in that sense, makes me want 5 black sources still for Valky, Vraska, Seraph. Seraph is the earliest black card, so that's going to be the hardest one to cast. I could see cutting Seraph, throwing something else back in, and then cutting the swamp. What would we want if we chose to do that? We just run like a mouth to feed instead of Seraph, or Deemworthy, some other form of little removal there. That's a possibility. And we really do have the late game with Tybalt, Ulvenwald Hydra, Hornet Queen as the plan. I mean, Seraph is potentially another Wrath-style effect with enough burn to go with it, but we don't have a ton of burn. We just want to somehow get in a position where Seraph survives a Magma Quake or something. Yeah, I guess that's not super likely. I guess we... Yeah, we'll do the most boring thing here and just cut Seraph for maybe Mouth to Feed here for another blocker, or Deemworthy for another removal spell. It's pretty equal between these two, in my opinion. Oh yeah, Dragon Master Outcast, that's another game ender in the late game. I'll just scoop up a Deemworthy here. Get another 4 mana card in the deck, I suppose. Alright, so we cut out the swamp, it threw in another forest. We're going to cut out the forest. Bam. So here is our Jund ramp deck. It's not really ramp, kind of just Jund control. Try to survive through the early game to just dump out some big plays later on. Mainly Tybalt being the best one, followed by like Dragon Master Outcast, and then the Hydra and the Hornet Queen being pretty solid as well. See how well this Jund control does here. I am out of water, unfortunately. Okay. Alright, so here we are in round 1 with a pretty solid start. We've got a red-black duel, a black-green duel, so we have all the colors we need. We have Dryad as well. Turn Timber as a 4th land. We only need 1 more land to hit Escape to the Wilds. We have Hornet Queen coming on the late game. Seems like a definite keep. Our opponent starts with a forest here. We don't have a turn 2 play, so I'm going to just play Kazul's Fury as a tapped land. Kazul's Fury is just not the kind of card that we're ever going to do anything crazy with, actually casting the spell half, so we'll just get that out there right now, because it's incredibly likely we'll want to play that as a land. Play our Blooming Marsh here, drop our Dryad, and play a forest. Actually, probably play Turn Timber Symbiosis tapped. That guarantees I cast Escape to the Wilds next turn, which should be big. Just an absolute rampy start to this game, as well as drawing 5 cards. Our opponent has gone 3 forests into a Paradise Druid. We'll see if Paradise Druid taps for any other color of mana, or if they're just on mono green here. Well, Wayward Swordtooth could definitely be mono green. We've seen 4 forests from them thus far. Wayward Swordtooth allows them to play additional lands each turn and is a 5/5 in the late game. Even if they kill our Dryad, we're pretty fine here because we've got the 5th land for Escape to the Wilds, and then we'll play the lands off of that. So they are eyeing the Dryad a little bit, but I would be fine if they throw something at it. Inscription of Abundance, sure. Go ahead and fight it, get it off the board. Alright, we've drawn into a Deemworthy. Not great here, we're just going to cast Escape to the Wilds. We have hit a couple lands here. Maybe should have played a Coom Warrior as a land, because it's not likely that we want to play that next turn, because we have to choose between all these cards. Yeah, I should have just played a Coom Warrior tapped. That was a little bit of a punt there. Just instinctually slammed down my land for turn. Or my second land, thanks to the additional land ability on Escape to the Wilds. But there's no way we're casting a Coom Warrior here when we can cast Vraska, and if we cast a Coom Warrior, we don't get to cast Vraska. Rishkar Pima Renegade. Wow, that's really good against the Shock. Ooh. Alright, they did not actually stop the Shock from happening, so I'm happy with that. This is the last turn to cast all of this stuff, so we gotta get the value off of it while we can. Even if Vraska dies immediately, she got great value, because we're gonna kill the Blademir, and we're gonna kill their Wayward Swordtooth, because they have... Have they ascended? 5, 6, 7, 8? No, they had 9. They didn't ascend yet. This can't attack or block yet. They don't have the City's Blessing, so we can kill Rishkar instead. They have 5, 6, 7 permanents out. Only Paradise Druid can attack Vraska. Yeah, sure. Kill Rishkar then. And we don't have any 2-mana cards, so now we can just play a Coom Warrior tapped anyway. It's better than playing the next Forest, because it gives us another land type for Field of the Dead. So if we top deck Field of the Dead right now, we have 6 different land types. Field of the Dead would be the 7th. They are going to go ahead and use Paradise Druid to finish off Vraska there. Cast in Ashaya, Soul of the Wilds. They have 8 permanents, so Swordtooth is not ready yet. Glorybringer can come out and kill their Paradise Druid. That turns Ashaya into a 7/7. Can we take 7 here? Because we can just cast Hornet Queen and we just got blockers for everything, so we're safe. But then maybe Swordtooth can attack. Even if it can attack, if we have a Hornet Queen out, we're safe, so it's probably just Hornet Queen here. Yeah, almost definitely. They have 1 card in hand and just these 3 on board. Hornet Queen trades off with 5 things, potentially. So, Glorybringer doesn't get to kill anything off an attack here, unfortunately, but we can start chipping away at them for 4 a turn. I think I prefer just using Vivian and trying to draw into some other powerful cards to close out the game.
My newest friend.
Like Field of the Dead or Dragon Master Outcast. That's actually a difficult choice. Field of the Dead, okay, they're just going to scoop. Field of the Dead's harder for them to kill because it's a land. But Dragon Master Outcast spits out 5/5s every turn instead of 2/2s every turn. I probably would have just taken Dragon Master Outcast. Because even if they find removal for that, they have to remove that and somehow remove Vivian. Otherwise, we're still just drawing a solid card every turn. Because Valky is on the front of Tybalt, Vivian's +1 can even draw us into Tybalt. I think being able to sit behind a Hornet Queen there with a Planeswalker out was definitely going to give us tons of value and find a way to close out that game, and that is where the concession came from our opponents. All right. We are in round 2 with a good hand against a hyper-aggressive deck with this Crush the Weak in the early game and then just a 1/3 blocker, but a bit of a risky hand against other mid-range decks because those are the only plays we have guaranteed, and they're not very big plays. You just play a 1/3 out and then hope to draw the lands for Vivian or Tybalt. I think I'm going to keep it. I don't think it's worth a mulligan. We are on the draw as well. See how this goes here. Opponent starts out with an island. Pretty much my least favorite thing to see here. Blue's one of the slowest colors, although we'll see. They can be like blue-red in an aggressive deck. Blue-white flyers is possible. No, that's a mana rock. Definitely not. We draw into an Explorer here. We're going to go for a Rada next turn. I don't feel like foretelling this Crush the Week's going to do anything. We only have 3 lands that we know of here. We have a Tybalt for the late game. We have a Vivian for the late game. We have powerful late game plays, so I'm tempted to just play Dragon Master Outcast to maybe draw removal from them, so that Rada is more likely to survive. Rada is definitely more important in this hand right now. We need to be able to try to dig for lands out of the top. So I'll dump the Outcast out immediately, and if they have a secondary color that can just kill the Outcast, then we'll let it die. Drawn to the Escape to the Wilds. They have 3 mana up thanks to Guardian Idol. Kind of want to attack in here. Maybe they flash in something. They don't flash in anything. Well, can't afford to just not try to cast Rada here, but I am worried about a counterspell. Yep. There is the neutralize. Now I can Masked Vandal to kill their Guardian Idol since I have a creature in the grave. We did draw the 4th land, the Field of the Dead here, which is good. Looks like they're on blue-green, so like blue-green flash here. Just a ton of counterspells, relatively annoying deck in general. Seeing that they're blue-green, I'm not going to attack with Dragon Master anymore. Also, they can just use this to make the Idol a 2/2. Well, I'll attempt to kill the Idol with a Masked Vandal. See if it happens. We don't have any recursion, so we have no way to get cards out of our grave anyway. We're happy to just exile Rada. Thrix. Alright. Goodbye, Guardian Idol. And no attacks. Thrix is just a big old flyer, and now all of their stuff is a little cheaper and uncounterable, and they drop down at Teferi's Tutelage to start milling me every time they draw a card. So if the game goes long, they could win off of mill. Very much not a fan of that, because my deck is a slow deck, trying to take over the game with big late game plays, so it does take a while to fire off, although Vivian can destroy that Teferi's Tutelage, which is good for us. We do have the 5 mana to immediately play Vivian and kill that, although I think it's probably better to escape here. Unless they have a 2 mana counter. Spell Pierce. Oh my god. Sadness on the stack. Well, now we know Vivian resolves at least, so we get to kill Tutelage, or she's more likely to resolve. Doesn't mean she necessarily does. Oh yeah, Tutelage is very important to kill. We're drawing extra cards each turn. We're down to 21 now. We could also just die to Thrix, so we probably have to kill Thrix first. I mean, definitely have to kill Thrix first with Vivian. Because if we don't, then Thrix will kill Vivian. They have 1 card left in their hand. Is the last card in hand a counterspell? I can't afford to take the turn off Crushing the Week here. I kill my own Dragon Master to kill their Visionary, so that's not going to do anything. So I would just play Kazul's Fury and Foretell Crush if I don't cast Vivian. So, let's see. Oh my god, she resolves. Get out of here, Thrix. Get off this board. And I have a 1/3 to go ahead and block their Llanowar Visionary. So Vivian should stay around long enough to kill Tutelage, although we are going to get to a low deck total before that happens. Four mana from our opponent, dropping to Fairy, Master of Time.
Think fast.
Teferi is very good with Teferi's tutelage because Teferi can use his abilities during your turn and your opponent's turn, so they draw 3 cards total per turn cycle, so we get milled 6 cards per turn cycle. At least we get a dragon now, but it doesn't have haste. We don't have any black mana for Tybalt still. They haven't milled any of our black mana either, though. That means we have 4 black sources still in our deck out of those 15 cards. We can't -3 Vivian when she's only at 2, so we got a plus here.
Come to me.
Direfleet, Daredevil, and Glorybringer. Teferi's at 4, so if we cast Glorybringer, they have to phase out our Glorybringer. Direfleet, Daredevil, what would be casting out of their grave? Just counterspells, so Direfleet, Daredevil does nothing. Yeah, definitely grabbing Glorybringer here. Although Savai Triome is the black mana for Valki, but it comes into play tapped. We need to do things right now or we're getting milled a million. Play the land first in case they have some other taxing sort of counterspell. We'll go ahead and foretell this Crush the Weak at this point, because why not? Okay. We phase out the other dragon, I suppose. Alright. Well, I suppose Teferi died for a noble cause. Prevent that dragon's damage next turn. Down to 12 cards in library, but our board state's pretty ridiculous. Hornet Queen is going to make it difficult, but with Crush the Weak, we can get that out of the way for all our dragons. We have the Overgrown Tomb for Tybalt. I think we actually just blow up Tutelage here immediately so that we know we don't die to that, and then we just Crush. Definitely. That should just be game. That should be awesome. Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
Let's play a little game.
Sphinx of Foresight is the play, and Llanowar Elves. We draw into a Coom Warrior. I think we just get rid of their 1 blocker, attack all here. We don't even have to exert now. Alright, Crush the Weak actually was incredible in that game, and that whole game I thought for sure Crush the Weak was just going to be a dead card in hand the whole time, but Crush the Weak really turned things around at the end. Pretty nuts way to end the game with the Jund control. I always want to call it Jund ramp because instinctually, like, that's what it is in general. But we just have Explore, Rada, and Escape to the Wilds. Is that enough to classify as ramp? I don't know. I suppose so. So, anyways, on the subject of emotes, because I have been responding to emotes lately. I don't know what the what the emote metagame is anymore, because I left them off for so long, but then I unlocked the call time ones, the little angel ones, and I want to use them every once in a while. So now that I have emotes on, I just instinctually like do the responses that they give you whenever somebody says something, but that might be rude. I don't know. Should probably literally just say good game at the end, and that's about it. We've got all 3 of our colors. If we hit 5 mana, we have Escape. We've got some cards to survive till then. Daredevil and Fight with Fire. So a good blocker and a good removal spell. We can try this out. Definitely don't think it's worth a mulligan at the very least. Field of the Dead? Yeah. Dump that out there. That'll be sure to make them shake a little bit. Be a little scared. Uh-oh. Turn 1 field. We're playing against green-white Chainweb Arachneer, which can escape from the grave into Remorseful Cleric, a 2/1 flyer. I think I'm going to cast Valky here, actually, which is definitely weird because Tybalt does take over the game in the late game, but I'm worried about them curving out because they just did 1-drop, 2-drop here. Oh my god, they just have Garruk and Essica's Chariot? Well, that panned out poorly. But if they had like a 3 or 4 mana creature in hand, stealing it with Valky and then turning Valky into that would be pretty great here. We have plenty of other ways to close out a game than Tybalt, so it's not the end of the world that that Tybalt didn't hit anything. So we're going to play an Essica's Chariot. Do we have anything we can do about that? I don't think so. They get 2 cats. We can play like a first striking blocker. We could double block a Chariot if they crew it. Garruk as well makes like 3/3s and stuff. Fight with Fire only deals damage to creatures. Just have nothing to really deal with that. So do we just Fight with Fire and kill a Cleric for now? Just slow them down, I guess? I think so. Probably trying to get to Hornet Queen to deal with all of their aggression. So part of playing Tybalt as well, if I'm being completely honest, is that I just wanted to play my fanciest land, so I played Blooming March, and I was like, wait a sec, now I don't have red mana. What is this? Make a 3/3. Okay. Dragon Skull Summit, 4 different lands for Field of the Dead now. I think we probably are playing a blocker here. We haven't seen any instance or sorceries in their deck yet, so we don't know if Daredevil's even going to do anything for us, and if we don't play a Daredevil, we're casting nothing this turn. Let's get a little something out there. Definitely tapping out to do nothing next turn, just using Escape to the Wilds. I definitely want to have 4 power out to be able to block Essica's Chariot, for sure, if nothing else. Alright, Garruk Unleashed, unleashing that Arachneer. To 4/5 status, definitely don't have any good blocks for that, even if we double block. Essica's Chariot does get to copy any token you control, so they can make more 3/3s out of it instead of more 2/2s whenever it attacks. So it is very scary here. Well, I'm going to need a couple more green mana to cast this this Hornet Queen. Let's hope for some green sources. There we go, there's some green sources. However, that's actually a difficult choice. I could cast a Dragon Master Outcast right now if I play a mountain. But I also have a Magma Quake coming up. We play a mountain, hold up Shock. Magma Quake and cast Dragon Master Outcast next turn? Is that our best plan? I think so. Yeah, we just want a board wipe here. I mean, unless the plan is to Hornet Queen, then we have to play a forest there, so we don't get to play Dragon Master Outcast anyway. Because if we want to cast Hornet Queen next turn, we have to play a forest this turn and next turn. So we don't have a red untapped for Dragon Master. Magma Quake hits Planeswalkers too? Alright, we are definitely killing Essica's Chariot on blocks here. That's the only thing that won't die to Magma Quake, because it's a vehicle, so they can just not crew it.
dare you?
Well, now we can only do 6 damage to it, so never mind. If they're gonna plus it with Garruk here. It's not awesome. They do it. What? When I'm playing Field of the Dead, they got the Field of Ruin. I just now noticed. We don't have any good blocks here, but we can stop some damage if we're just gonna Magma Quake anyway. We might as well. Yeah, because Magma Quake gets exiled at the end of our turn, so we can't even wait to do it during their turn. Now I've got a backup Magma Quake. Yeah, we absolutely just nuke Garruk and everybody else, right? They'll have 2 cards engraved, so they still don't have enough for Arachnir to go off, which is nice. We have to Magma Quake for 4, so I'll have 1 mana up, so I get to cast Dragon Master afterwards. We'll play one of the exiled lands. Well, seems pretty good. They get to keep their beasts now. Unless I shock one, then they just have a single 3/3. They can crew Chariot if they have both of those still. I have Hornet Queen next turn. They can crew Chariot even if they don't, because they can actually... Well, now they have 3 engraved. They still need 1 more to crew Chainweb Arachnir, but they could crack Field of the Dead to cast a Chainweb Arachnir, then they can crew a Chariot without those. So they crew a Chariot off of that, attack with 2 3/3s and a 4/4, and I have to chump block with Dragon Master. Oh, that's so bad. I have to just shock one of those, because if I don't shock it, they Field of the Dead here. That puts their 4th card engraved for Chainweb Arachnir. They cast Chainweb Arachnir, crew Chariot, attack with 2 3/3s and a 4/4. I can't survive without blocking, so Dragon Master's just dead no matter what. So we gotta survive with a Hornet Queen now. Wait a second. Okay. Alright. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't just Chainweb Arachnir there. But I'll take it. We need another green source if I want to explore and Hornet Queen here. And if I don't Hornet Queen, I die. Because if I Sweltering Suns, they have a Chariot. They just play the Chainweb Arachnir and crew Chariot and I die. So we have to just Hornet Queen. We have to chump block like everything. Chainweb Arachnir does deal damage to one of these things when they play it, but that's only one of the 4. This gets them to just not attack with Chariot again. At the very least. We've got to draw into some good stuff, that's for sure, but we've got 1 draw spell in hand. Explore lets us spin the wheel a little bit. Obviously kill the biggest one. We can cycle this Sweltering Suns as well. Which, I mean, with a 5/6 Chainweb Arachneer, we'll probably have to do... I kind of like it as a backup because it kills everything except the Arachneer and the Chariot. But we're at 4 life, so like Arachneer Chariot just kills us. Anyway, they are going to crew. Are they actually going to send it in here to flip a Legion's Landing then? They are. Ooh, so Sweltering Suns is actually very interesting to me now because we can kill everything except their Chainweb Arachneer. So if we find anything to kill Chainweb Arachneer, we can survive off of Sweltering Sunsing. But I suppose if we're just killing everything here anyway, except like a 1/1. Yeah, because if I let any more of this through, then we're just at a really low life total. Kind of have to just do all the trades here. So they already have most of their stuff gone. Triome. Alright, we'll definitely explore. Dryad, so we get a 2/4 blocker, so I can cast Sweltering Suns and play Dryad as a 2/4 blocker. Chump block the Chainweb Arachneer. They don't have enough mana to make a 1/1 right now. So that gives us a chump block for next turn. And we can cycle Triome next turn to try to draw into something. To deal with Arachneer, I guess. It's probably the best we have. Oh my god. Okay, it wouldn't have mattered. But that was a misclick. Yeah, we hit Forest Vivian, so it wouldn't have mattered. I meant to cast the Sweltering Suns, but I cycled it instead, and then at that point was like, well, let's just see what we would have drawn. We couldn't get out of it. So... we would have cast Sweltering Suns, played Dryad, we block the Chainweb Arachneer, but then they make a 1/1, so they have a 5/6 and a 1/1 lifelinker out when we're at 3, and then after drawing the land, we draw Vivian by cycling the Triome. So we'd have to spend 3 to cycle the Triome, 6 mana left over, so we spend 5 on Vivian, we only have 1 mana left to cast something after using her +1, so we would have died either way. But that was a big bump. I just like slam down Sweltering Suns, click on the ability on the right, and it's like that's to cycle it, sir. Oops. So 2-1 it is, heading into round 4. See if at the very least we don't make any more misclicks here, but we didn't lose from it or anything. It was a losing game either way. Yeah, definitely a solid start. See if Dryad can just take us to the moon in terms of mana. I'm just going to play a tapped land turn 1. I like holding off on the Outcast when it looks to be our game-ending card. Which it does in this hand. Well, now we have a Tybalt as well, so really, it's anyone's game. See who does better here. I guess I should have played the Forest first so I could have 1 red up in case I drew Shock. But I'm still not planning on casting Outcast here. Crypt Breaker, so we're on an aggressive kind of self-mill deck here. Green-black, self-milling a bit. They hit 3 lands and they're stuck on 2, so that is pretty unlucky. Definitely play Dryad so I can play 2 lands this turn. 1 land away from Dragon Master going off. I guess I'll play it here. Because I'm probably going to want a Deem Worthy. I've got 5 mana to do that. So I can't, if I want to do the 7 damage, I can't hold that up. It's the 6th mana for the Dragon Master, so it goes off next turn. I think I'll cycle this to kill Imperious Perfect. So I get to draw a card and kill something. There's a Glorybringer, so we're 1 mana away from Valki. We are at enough lands for Dragon Master Outcast if they can't kill it here. Even if they can kill it, we get to cast a Glorybringer guaranteed and possibly a Tybalt. Alright, bam, we get to cast a Tybalt here now. We don't have any attacks in, so I'll just cast a Tybalt, I think. Yep. kind of just ramped it out there. We ramped up pretty quickly, and our opponent got stuck on mana for a turn there, so they were way behind on mana, with a conjunction of us getting extra mana and them getting less mana than they needed. So 3-1 here for the Jund Lands deck. Just going to call it something different between every round. Jund Control, Jund Lands, Jund Ramp, Jund Tybalt. Pick your poison, really. Jund stuff. Okay. This hand is a little risky because we only have 2 lands, but Once Upon a Time pretty much guarantees the 3rd land at least. We have great Wrath effects, Glorybringer coming out on 5, a removal spell. I am going to keep it. We'll see what we get off Once Upon a Time. I am going to use this before I play a land in case I hit a tapped land. I have hit a tapped land. We have green, we have red. We just need black, so do we want black-green or black-red here? We want black-red here because we have a double red card, Magma Quake, and a double red Glorybringer. Rootbound Crag. We do have a mountain already, so we can play that untapped and foretell ourselves a Crush the Week. We are playing against white-blue here. Could be white-blue Control or white-blue Flyers. Seeing a Birth of Melodus means it is almost definitely white-blue Control. Field of the Dead should be solid in this matchup because it's one of the least interactable cards in our deck. They have to have specifically land removal. They can't counter it, they can't removal spell it. So Field of the Dead seems pretty good here. History of Benalia to start getting some 2/2 Knights. Alright, well, I think I just let that go off. We may Crush the Week once that has spit out 2 things. We've got a Dragon Master Outcast here. So maybe I'll Magma Quake then during their turn. I'm definitely not casting Dragon Master here. I'm not going to crush on only one creature, and I'm not going to fight a token. So I just wait for now, and potentially in their end step I'll Magma Quake. I'm not super worried about preserving my life total a ton here, so I'm okay to take just 2 damage to hold off on Magma Quake until their end step in case they play more creatures. So I will do that. Would absolutely love if they play a 2 toughness or less creature here, and they did, Charming Prince, so we are going to get a 3 kill off of this Magma Quake. I am going to Magma Quake instead of Crushing the Week here, but it is arguable to just hold off and Crush the Week, because then I have Magma Quake to kill bigger things later, whereas Crush the Week can only do the 2 damage. But if I Magma Quake now, then I get to Glorybringer next turn and just start slamming in with it, if they can't counter it. So I'm going to attempt this Magma Quake now. If they have a way to save their creatures, then we'll just Crush the Week next turn and forget the Glorybringer. Alright, we did get rid of them there. Direfleet Daredevil. No instants or sorceries in our grave yet, so that doesn't do anything crazy. We'll just drop our Glorybringer, send in. 1 mana away, or 1 land away from Dragon Master Outcast being able to go off. Not worried about their defender there. They do have a seal away for Glorybringer, unfortunately, so if we had exerted, we would have gotten value off of it. Even having it die immediately, so that may have been better. We do have 1 or 2 ways to get rid of a seal away. We have Vivian and Vraska, and Masked Vandal, which I totally forgot about. However, we need a creature in our graveyard to do that, so I don't think I'll do that quite yet. That being said, there's nothing for Direfleet Daredevil to hit, so I'm not a big fan of that. But I do want one of my creatures to die. Do we just not cast anything here, then? I guess I'm just casting a Direfleet Daredevil, hoping they counter it. Well, I still don't really want to cast Dragon Master Outcast against 5 open mana from the control deck, especially when I won't even get a dragon if it comes back to my turn. I still have to have it survive another turn to do that. We're not going to fight their token. We're not going to Masked Vandal unless we get to kill Seal Away with it, because getting a Glorybringer back is very big. Cast a Think twice and flash it back. Okay. Just draw a couple cards there. I don't know why they would remove a Direfleet Daredevil when it's on the board against a 0/4, but I would be a fan if they did. If it's destroy-based removal. Blast Zone from our opponent. That can destroy everything with converted mana cost X, where X is whatever charge counters they put on it. Right now it's at 1. Soul Guide Lantern from our opponent, so they can exile cards from our graveyard. Well, they can sacrifice that in response to our Masked Vandal, so that does counter our Seal Away. Just kind of like the answer right there. So that is pretty good for our opponent. Well, just attack in with our Direfleet Daredevil, see if they flash in something to kill it, I guess. I don't know. Even if they do, they have the Soul Guide Lantern now, though. They have 4 cards in hand. They almost definitely have a way to deal with Dragon Master. But I don't have any other threats. I think we have to go for it, but I highly doubt that this is going to even resolve in the first place. Well, it resolved, but the time spent on that makes me think they probably will be removing it with something. Oh, please sacrifice that to draw a card. Ooh, that is huge. Now, even if they kill Dragon Master Outcast, if they don't exile it, we'll have a creature in our graveyard, and Masked Vandal can get back a Glorybringer, so we have another way to try to actually start hitting our opponent. This is still our end step here. They could use Blast Zone on 1, I guess, if they don't have any other way to kill it, and I guess they didn't. So they Blast Zone on 1 so we can Masked Vandal next turn. Does put them down a mana as well here, but they do have the 6th land to replace it. They did spend a while thinking if they wanted to counter Masked Vandal. So I still feel like they have a counterspell, but I still feel like it's not worth trying to like fight with fire on the wall, because like if it resolves, we start doing 2 a turn, sure. But I doubt they counter it, so it just resolves. It's not going to pull a counter out from being used on Masked Vandal. Just gonna try this. Maybe it's all removal then. That's in their hand. Or nothing. Nothing would be pretty cool. I'm just gonna exert immediately here, so because they've got 5 cards in hand, they're very likely to oh my god, you can't exert if you hit all attack. I forgot about that. That is an annoying arena thing. Like, I want to attack with both, but I want to attack with both and exert Glorybringer. So if you just hit the all attack button, you don't get the opportunity. It never asks you if you want to exert. So I had to click on them individually so I could actually kill their 0/4 wall there. They're going to settle me for a 2/1 and the Glorybringer. Basically a 1-for-1 removal spell on the Glorybringer. If I had a single swamp in this deck, this settle would be so good for me, but I don't run a single swamp because I don't have anything that searches my library for basics. So we actually don't get to go off with Field of the Dead here and punish them, which is so rough. I'm holding onto this land in case I hit my 7th land for the Field of the Dead. That way I can get a zombie out of this as well instead of just playing it for nothing. Approach of the Second Sun, so they kill us in 7 turns. Vivian Reed, because they're tapped out. Good draw. Let's see what we draw
I've seen
into.
things that would break someone
Just
like you.
lands, but one of them is going to start the Field of the Dead, but Field of the Dead is not going to be a fast enough way to kill our opponent here to beat their approach of the second sun. Now we're using Vivian to draw every turn, so I might fight with... I mean, fight with fire, we can hit them for 10. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh yeah, we're going to have 10 mana. We're going to hold that in hand then, because we can hit them for 10 with that soon enough. The approach is 6 turns away. It is approaching. Lay claim on Vivian. So now they're 4 cards closer. Ow. It's kind of perfect. Yep, they're 2 cards away from the approach now. That'll do it. Good lord. I could not imagine a better follow-up play there to my Vivian. It's gotta feel nice. Go 4 cards deep to the approach of the second sun there. So we are 3-2 now. Heading into round 6. This is a fun deck. This is a cool deck. I'm pretty happy with this deck overall. So however it goes here, it's gonna go. This could be the final round if we lose this one. But if not, we can always try to rally up to 7 wins. I am trying to hit at least like 5-3 in the arena cubes, because that's where you break even an arena cube. Which is kind of brutal. It is 4-3 in premier drafts that I'm always trying to hit. Well, this is really good in terms of the colors available to us here. And yeah, great plays later in the game. We just need this Rada to hit some lands for us. But if she does, then this hand is incredible. Because Rada hits lands into Escape to the Wilds, and then Escape to the Wilds ramps us up into the Tybalt early. This could be massive stuff here. I'm not going to cast Valky here. Just going to cast Rada next turn, I think. No attacks with Reclaimer. We have Overgrown Tomb. Don't really want to lose the life here. I'll go ahead and just play Rada. Playing against green-black with an Elvish Reclaimer to start. They can sacrifice a land to search for a different one, put it on the battlefield tapped. Searches for any land, so it can hit a Field of the Dead. It can hit any 2 or 3 color land they need, just for fixing. And they sacrifice a forest to grab a mountain. So they are just fixing in at least a 3 color deck over there. Green, red, and black. Jund like us thus far. They have the natural Jund, green, red, and black out with a Cultivate getting cast here. Search for 2 basics, 1 onto the battlefield tapped and 1 into their hand. We'll see if they are 5 color or just Jund. If they're 5 color, I expect like Plains Island here. Mountain Island, still likely that they're 5 color, but they just need double red for something. If they're at least 4 color, there are definitely a lot of cards that care about specifically having all 5 colors, so I could absolutely see that being the case here. So we can cast Vraska here. Does Vraska even do anything big? We definitely don't want to sacrifice something to Vraska, but we could kill the Reclaimer, I guess. We're definitely casting Escape to the Wilds next turn, so it may be better to just hold Vraska out on this board, just plus her. Because we're not casting Valky, so I think we are casting Vraska. The question is whether or not we want to kill the Reclaimer or just have her at 5 loyalty.
Wherever I go, I leave bodies in my wake.
I think I'll just leave her at 5 loyalty.
Don't dwell on what's about to happen.
We're definitely not sacrificing anything. We need all these lands for now. I'm probably going to take the hit on the Overgrown Tomb next turn so that I can spread my lands out in terms of the names, have as many different names as possible in case Escape to the Wilds does hit a Field of the Dead. So that will start triggering on the 7th land I play rather than like the 8th or 9th. Unstable Obelisk. They can spend 7, sacrifice that to destroy a permanent. They're on the full ramp here. Definitely killing their Rada with our Vraska. Glad to see a good target for that there. But they can also use their Obelisk to kill our Vraska later. But they need to spend all of their mana into that, so it might not be worth it to them. We also have Sweltering Suns, although we do have to kill our own Rada to do that, so I don't love that. Yeah, I think we are just going to blow up their Rada with our Vraska.
I won't forgive this.
Pay the life on the Tomb to escape to the wilds this turn. And Savai Triumph is the land for turn, or Akum Warrior. I would rather play Savai Triumph, although I could draw another card with a Rada here. Dig towards something else. So lots of options, actually. I think I go with Savai Triumph again, just for the different names on the lands. And I'm not going to attack here, so I can block their Reclaimer and keep Vraska at least 2, so that next time I plus her, she goes to 4, which means if I plus her once, then she's at enough loyalty to minus and survive. These are some awkward hits off of Escape to the Wilds. These are some expensive cards. I don't even know if I played one of these. Ooh, looks like they're going to shoot my Rada with their Chandra so they can hit Vraska with their Elvish Reclaimer, so she goes down to 1 here.
It's playtime.
I will have 7 mana here, so I suppose I can just cast a Tibalt. Possibly.
Still here.
I mean, yeah, Chandra can't do anything about a Tibalt. She just -3s to creatures. So you just play a Tibalt, kill their one actual creature. Actually, no, they have Unstable Obelisk still. I don't want to play Tibalt until Obelisk is out of the way. So do I cast just Turn Timber Symbiosis here? See what we hit out of our top 7. Grab our biggest creature. Yeah, I could see that. Deemworthy only deals damage to creatures, so we can't kill Chandra with that. We don't have any way to kill Chandra. We have Balagad Recovery we could use to escape again later or something. Recovery is going to be huge here in the late game. That's going to be pretty awesome. I think I play land, Turn Timber Symbiosis, just spin the wheel here. Masked Vandal or Dryad of the Elysian Grove. They have Obelisk, so we can kill that with Vandal. I forgot I do actually have one spell that can bring things back from the grave, and that is the spell land, the Balagad Recovery. These are both nice, Dryad or Masked Vandal. I think I'll Masked Vandal. Destroy the Obelisk. Set up for a good Tibalt next turn. Now I get to sacrifice just the Forest here, draw a card, gain a life. Drawn to the Hornet Queen. That was really the kind of card I was looking for out of the Symbiosis, but it does turn any small creature into a big one, so it did make Masked Vandal a 4/6. Hornet Queen, it would just cast as Hornet Queen.
Oh, today's my lucky day.
Any creatures that cost 3 or less get 3 counters on them, so Dryad would have been really big, to be honest. Bone Crusher Giant to go ahead and kill Vraska, so thus ends her day in the sun. Oh wait, no, she has 3 loyalty, I forgot. Because we kept her at 3 there off of the +2. Still alive for now. And her +2 is pretty good at this point in the game, because we only need 7 mana for everything, so we can just play a land, tap our 7 mana down, and then sacrifice a land. And just keep doing that every turn we draw a land. Like so. Do I Tibalt here? Take Bone Crusher Giant? Seems solid to me. We have recovery if anything really bad happens, if they somehow get rid of Tibalt. I think Tibalt's bigger than Hornet Queen here.
I am Volt. God, I'll be.
Don't dwell on what's about to happen.
Definitely just hold back blockers here. Now we have a Dragon Master Outcast coming up as well. Lots of powerful game-ending cards at our disposal. maybe they are just 4-color. Just green, blue, red, and black. We have not seen a white source from them still. Although they did need the double red for Chandra, so that does explain the mountain pickup there. Hoping that being able to just exile the unstable obelisk with Masked Vandal was enough to defend Tybalt here, but if it's not, we have the backup Tybalt thanks to the Bala Ged recovery. If we have to do that, though, we're going to be spending a lot of our mana into recasting a Tybalt, so we don't get to play around with all the stuff we exile with him, which is a little sad, because we have some great stuff already, just a Bone Crusher Giant. We do get to cast both halves, because Tybalt is insane. Alright, if they have a way to turn this into lethal on my Masked Vandal, then I suppose they can go for it. Lava Axe is the draw. That would be 5 damage to the Masked Vandal right there. Do have to discard a card to do it, though. Oh, that's crazy. Did they scry? No, they didn't scry or anything. But that would be exactly 5 to the Masked Vandal now that it's taken 1, if that is their play this turn. They've got the black-red pathway there. Magma Quake for 5. Because it does hit all Planeswalkers too. Alright. Well, recovery for Tybalt later is going to be big, but I like Ulvenwald Hydra as well. Because Ulvenwald Hydra, if you did not know, searches for any land card. So we're about to do something pretty crazy here. And just grab Field of the Dead off of Ulvenwald Hydra. Play second land per turn. Play Dragon Master Outcast. They cleared the board, but now they got to do it again. Because we once again have multiple game-winning cards. That was a huge swing. Ulvenwald Hydra, an incredible draw. Prismatic Bridge from our opponent. And a Skeet Swarm is the play per turn. I think we just want to kill Prismatic Bridge, actually. So we just pick up Masked Vandal instead of Tybalt, actually. Tybalt's the only creature in our grave, so we exile Tybalt to kill Prismatic Bridge. That's kind of hilarious. Oh, they do have a Plains. There's a Plains right there. Alright, well, if they're not going to block with the Skeet Swarm, I will Bone Crush it before they get a copy of it, so that won't go off. 2 cards in hand, now down to 5, facing multiple game-ending threats, as I said. And that will end that game. Man, our late-game plays are just huge in this deck. It's insane. Tybalt is a ridiculous card for sure. So that does put us to 3-2? It puts us to 4-2, only 1 win away from breaking even, getting all of the gold we spent in back out of this. Fingers crossed, that's where I want to be. I'll do my best. Alright, we are on the play here. Again, that Dryad on turn 3 here seems good. Shock and Crush the weak if her opponent's aggressive. Seems solid to me. Could play Shock turn 1 if I play a Mountain, if they have like a 1/1 haste, Fanatical Firebrand, anything like that. But with Crush the Weak in hand, I'm very unlikely to want to do that, so I'm just going to play Overgrown Tomb turn 1. Because if they play a 1/1 haste, we'd rather be playing a Crush the Weak against them, because if they're playing 1/1 haste creatures, they're going to be playing a lot of cheap creatures. So now I can foretell my Crush the Weak, or I can just shock Llanowar Elves to keep them from ramping up crazily. Forest Llanowar Elves is not a ton of information. They could be using Llanowar Elves as ramp for late game spells, playing like green-red with a bunch of really late stuff, or they could be a more mid-rangey deck that's just going to ramp into like a 3-drop on turn 2. That would be really bad for me. And there's also the possibility that would make Shock the worst here, which is the possibility that they're like green-white and they're hyper-aggressive and they just have Llanowar Elves to like double spell us early in the game. Do play a Sheltered Thicket on turn 2, so they're green-red at the very least, likely something pretty rampy. I do want to play Dryad first so I can be double landing, but I don't have anything to ramp into yet, so it actually doesn't really matter. I guess if I play Dryad first, it's harder to kill, and if they don't kill it, then immediately when I play Rada, if I have 2 lands on top of my deck, I can just play both of them with Rada. Like, these 2 in conjunction is pretty nice. Just turn Rada into an Oracle of Moldiah. Elvish Rejuvenator from our opponent. They're on green, red, and white, so they are definitely a late game kind of rampy deck. So pretty fine with having shocked the Llanowar Elves there then. Means they're unlikely to have a ton of other cards I could kill off of a Crush the Weak or anything. See if we hit any lands on top with Rada. That would be incredible. Just an Explore, unfortunately. So I suppose we attack for 2 here and foretell this Crush the Weak. But with Explore on top, we're incredibly likely to be able to go off with Dragon Master Outcast next turn. If there's a land in our top 3 cards, we can get there. Because we draw Explore, we look at the top. If it's a land, we play it off of Rada. If it's not, we draw a card off Explore, look at the next card on top. If it's a land, we can play it off Rada. Mirari's Wake from our opponent, definitely want to Masked Vandal that, but I need a creature engrave to do it. Because now they just have 1,000,000 mana. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have 10 mana right now. 12 if they play another land per turn. So, oh yeah, all our lands are every color, which is good. Let's explore here, see if we get a land after Vandal. We do, so Dragon Master Outcast can start going off. We have a Vivian after that. So we play Dragon Master Outcast, attack with all here. As soon as one of our creatures dies, we're going to Masked Vandal the Mirari's Wake away. So if they shock our Dragon Master Outcast, anything like that. We can use Vivian to kill Mirari's Wake, actually, if they don't kill any of our creatures. And also if we just want to play a Vivian. Say, I forgot about that. Vivian's -3 has been putting in a lot of work. It's been very good in most of these matchups. So one thing that's worth considering in the Arena Cube is after you've played it a ton, when you're playing against people who have played it a ton, they might be able to figure out what your foretold cards are pretty easily. So there are some games where you would just be like, I don't want to foretell Crush the Weak because then they know I have it and they might not dump their hand as much, you know? But if you foretell it early enough in the game, then it's very like, this could be Demon Bolts or Crush the Weak. But once you get later in the game, it becomes very easy to tell. Depending on context clues. So they do get to ramp into a Karuga there, draw a card from having Mirari's Wake out, and Immortal Sun. So Vraska doesn't get to do anything, so I need one of my creatures to die, so Masked Vandal kills their Immortal Sun. Oh no, and they have their own Masked Vandal to kill my Dryad now. Oh my god, so I can't play 2 lands per turn anymore. Well, if I block this Elvish Rejuvenator, I'll have a creature engrave so I can Masked Vandal their Immortal Sun. So if I hit a land, that'll be good, but I get a 5/5 flyer if I don't block here, so I think I just don't block here. I think I attack with Rada. Yeah, we have enough mana to play Masked Vandal and Vivian Reed here. So we attack with Rada. If they don't block Rada, I can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can do 10 damage to them, so I feel like they block Rada. Because then if I have Lightning Bolt, or Lightning Strike, my apologies, then Rada just dies. Whatever they block with is a chump block if I pump into it, so they probably block with Masked Vandal, and then I just let Rada die, which is going to be very confusing to them. But it is our best play here, because now Rada's in Grave, so we have something to Masked Vandal with to kill a Mortal Sun. And if we kill a Mortal Sun, we can actually use our Planeswalkers. We couldn't use our Planeswalkers when they did not have a Mortal Sun out, or when they did have a Mortal Sun out. So now we can use our Planeswalker to kill that, which kills Masked Vandal as well because it loses 2 toughness, and it gets rid of their big, scary game-ending cards. Now they just have a 1/1 and a 5/4, and we have a Vivian Reed and a Dragon Master Outcast still. So I think it was worth the sacrifice of Rada there. They have 4 cards available still, so they could still have some good interaction to get out of this. At least kill Vivian for sure. If they can kill both Vivian and Dragon Master Outcast, we're in a bad state because those are the only cards we have going for us here. Then we just have a fight with fire to kill Karuga, so at least they won't have a threat against us. Alright. That is just a big scary monster for their own field. Does not interact with anything we have. Although Savage Stomp does kill the Dragon Master Outcast. But again, still just having at least one of these is good. And now we can Crush the Weak to kill Elder Gargaroth. Crush the Weak plus Fight with Fire, and we don't feel so bad about that. And that has no trample, right? We are killing their only reach creature by using Fight with Fire and Crush the Weak. So I think that I don't want to block with the dragon. Since that doesn't have trample, I can chump block here. Like, we have 2 lines to go down here. We could trade with the dragon and then crush Fight with Fire on Gargaroth. Then we wipe their board out of everything. They only have their 2 cards in hand. We have a Vivian on board just going off. Or we can let them keep Karuga, and then we keep the Flyer since they're down to 13. The Flyer's a threat that can get in if we just kill Gargaroth. I mean, I do like the idea of wiping their whole board here. And it's entirely up to just what is in their hand and 1 top deck per turn, whereas we get 2 top decks per turn because Vivian. So Vivian should really help close this out, especially if we just draw Valky. That's pretty ridiculous. Do I just cast that instead? I think I do. No longer are we board wiping, we are just going to steal their Elder Gargaroth for our own uses. Tybalt is so ridiculous that even if they kill Tybalt, we still have Tybalt's emblem, so we get to cast Elder Gargaroth no matter what happens to Tybalt here. The best part of the front half of Tybalt for us is just the fact that it's a creature, so we get to draw Tybalt off of Vivian. Like, I guess we did cast Tybalt as Valky 1 time, and it was a game where we probably weren't going to have the time to cast Tybalt later on, but the best part is just that Vivian can pick up Tybalt. It's so dumb. Opponent is definitely going through the think tank here. They're looking at their grave as well. They may have some form of recursion to bring one of these back. Trying to figure out what their best play is. I don't have anything that Masked Vandal can kill. They won't draw any cards off Karuga because it'll be the only thing out. Don't have anything to stomp with. I think we may just be able to lock them out of the game with these Planeswalkers as we tend to do in the late game. Yep, there's the concession from our opponent, pushing us up into 5 wins and 2 losses. We are in the value now. Let's see what the rewards are overall, because I always forget. Let's look at the status here. 4,000 gold and 3 cards. So now we break even and get 3 cards for free. Ooh, uh-oh, it's getting pretty late. I need to finish this recording as quickly as possible because I have an appointment to go get my first vaccine shot today. So hopefully we can win these next 2 games super fast. Of course, if we're not going to make it to 7 wins, then we could always just lose the next game, and that would be pretty fast if we only play 1 more game of Magic here. We'll see. All right. It is unfortunate I ended up playing a slow kind of control-y deck right before I've actually got a scheduled thing. This was the time I had set aside where I could record, so it happens. I'm going to do my best here. We're going to speed mode this deck here. 1/3 is a good blocker for the 1/1 Crypt Breaker, although I'm a little scared of this kind of aggressive deck. We do have Sweltering Suns turn 3 here, which should be good. Well, now they know about it, so it's much less good now. But they get to take our Masked Vandal, our 1 blocker, so we don't have a turn 2 play, so they get to hit us for 3 here. We are 100% going to Sweltering Suns turn 3, but they know that, so they can just play around it. Just not play any creatures next turn. So we're kind of playing off the top because of the fact that they know what we have. We know we're not going to get a 3-for-1 off the Sweltering Suns, just a 2-for-1. Kill Valky, kill Crypt Breaker, get Masked Vandal back to our hand. Have a blocker again. I was going to say I would be wildly surprised if they play a creature here. Oh my god, I did it again! Why do they put cycling at the right part of the card? I was trying to say oops, not sorry, but they said oops first. Well, I no longer ever recommend playing Sweltering Suns because of the way they put cycling. I just assume right part of the card that's casting it. I've seen people having issues with that before as well. I think we're just going to lose from that, but kind of already needed to go, so it's okay. Because I may have had to just cut this draft off short, unfortunately. I'm still doing my best here. Like, we have multiple blockers now. We can even dump a Valky out and get rid of something in their hand. We can play a blocker and kill something with Fight with Fire. It's not actually the end of this game yet. We kill their 1 flyer now with Fight with Fire, so we can have blockers on the ground. We have Dragon Master Outcast coming out. I think we would have had a great chance if we actually just cast Sweltering Suns. Unfortunately, that is 2 games now where Sweltering Suns has screwed me a little bit. So they don't have... They don't have anything for me to kill off of Masked Vandal yet. But if I play it, I hold back Crypt Breaker, just take 2 that turn. If I play Dragon Master Outcast, I know it starts going off next turn. I'll have the 6 lands for it, and then I could spend like 2-3 mana spells. But I could see next turn playing, Valky, Rada, and Dragon Master if I get a black source, something like that. But I could also see just wanting to play a 4 or 5 and just wanting Dragon Master out now. I don't know. I'll play the Vandal here. Be able to block the 1/1 if they don't have removal. If we hit 7 mana, we have Hornet Queen, which is a big blocker that could get us back in the game. They just sent in the Aetherborn. We're down to 4 now. I can't believe that Sweltering Suns. God, freaking cycling. I said at the start of the game, I'm like, alright, we're in fast mode. Let's play as fast as possible. Here we go. And I clicked too fast. Too fast, too furious. Am I playing a 6 mana card if I play this Forest here? I don't think I am. I don't think I'm playing a Coom Warrior here. I can play Rada and Dragmaster Outcast. That gives us multiple blockers, trump blockers at the very least. Rada lets us draw cards off the top if they're lands. So I think we play Rada, Dragonmaster, Field of the Dead here. Because then we play our tapped land, so next turn we know we have 7 mana for Hornet Queen. And Explorer's on top, so we will just be playing the tapped land here. And Dragonmaster Outcast. Rada's big enough to trade for Aetherborn, and I will absolutely take that trade if they offer it. I'm at 4 life. I need to kill any creatures they have. They probably have removal, though. There is Grasp of Darkness for Rada. Now they can make a creature with Crypt Breaker by discarding a card. And they have 2 attackers to send in against us. We have to block at least one of them. If they have a removal spell, they could attack all, hit us for 3. If they have 2 removal spells, we die. Okay, so we go to 1. We go to dead. So that is going to end this game. Alright. Well, that was an unfortunate one, because I think if we actually cast Sweltering Suns on turn 3, that would have gotten us a little bit more time in that game. They would have still had a scary, aggressive start against us, but it would have gotten us a little bit more time, and that's literally all we needed. Having one more turn, we play a Hornet Queen, which is 5 Death Touch blockers. Unless they have a board wipe, that is enough to stall them off easily until we get black mana for Tybalt, and then Tybalt absolutely takes over the game. We play Hornet Queen, they can't attack into it well. Next turn we play a Coom Warrior, we just keep making our board bigger and bigger, better to block with. As soon as we get black mana, Tybalt probably wins it for us. So that would have been the game plan in the ideal game where I didn't misclick into cycling the Sweltering Suns. But you live, you learn to never draft Sweltering Suns again. Just never going to do. All right, so we're at 5 and 3. 4,000 gold and 3 cards out of that draft. Not a bad run at all. I think we definitely could have been 6-3. That last game could have gone either way. Had we had one more turn, which we would have gotten casting Sweltering Suns there. So pretty fun deck, pretty good deck, pretty good run overall. But that will end today's Arena Cube draft. If you enjoyed this video, do everything you're already doing, liking, commenting, subscribing, or just sticking around on the channel and watching the videos. And as always, as we near the end here, I would like to thank you all very much for watching. And I will see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.